What is up guys, it's your boy Solam here, back with another Classic WoW video for Season of Discovery. Now that we are only 48 hours away, or a little bit more than that, but basically 2 days away from the launch of Season of Discovery, I thought we would make a tier list of every single spec. So hopefully I don't leave anything out here, hopefully these are all the specs in the game, basically all the specs in Classic WoW, plus Healer Mage, Warlock Tank and Shaman Tank, right? So today we're taking a look at every single class, the actual runes that you're getting that will alter your class abilities, and giving you a rank on this tier list. Now the thing is, we're covering both DPS, healers and tanks here, so it's not going to be like top DPS, top healing and stuff. It's just going to be like a overall rank for the spec itself as it compares to just about everything else. So it's more about like how playable is it, how viable is it, instead of just topping DPS. But obviously for DPS people, it's going to be about topping DPS. If Ret Paladins do 1000 DPS and Survival Hunters does 200 DPS, then obviously Ret Paladins will have a way higher spot on the list itself. That being said, you also have someone who brings in a bunch of utility to the raid and might deal less damage but are still really viable. Think about Feral Druids for example. I do think they're going to deal a lot of damage, but they also bring Feral Strikes or Wild Strikes, just to give you an idea of where we're going with this. And I'm just going to give everything a rank as we go through this one spec at a time, and then see if we need any improvements or any like movements towards the end, just to see how it looks. Let me know as we go through if you have any modifications to the list, if yours looks different than mine, and let's just get to it, baby. This is going to be a long video covering once again every single class, and we're taking a look at the runes as well while we are going through this. So let's just start. To begin with, we have Mage and we have Frost. So we have to give Frost Mage a ranking here. Let's just go to the Mage talent calculator here, and let's go to Frost. Now at level 16, Frost is usually what you go to begin with, and you might spec over to Fire eventually. In this case, the level cap is level 25, so you're going to be very restricted as to both your talent choices and the runes as well. The talent choices, I'm guessing most of you actually know what they do by now, but you can basically reduce the cast time, you can increase slow, and even by using Ice Shards you can get a lot more critical strike chance, and increasing damage as well by the critical strikes, right? Now if we go to runes, we have a couple of Frost runes here. We have Fingers of Frost. This one is absolutely insane, the Fingers of Frost rune, so let's just pick that one to begin with. You can of course mix and match. You have different ones you can use, Enlightenment if you're always above 70% mana, but I think Fingers of Frost is going to be the best one. And then you have Ice Lance. If you do have Fingers of Frost, having Ice Lance as well is absolutely massive. So they basically work really well together, because Fingers of Frost makes it so your next spell will act as if they're frozen, and Ice Lance deals triple damage against frozen targets. And then you have something like Icy Veins. Once again, you can mix and match, but Icy Veins is probably the one you're going to go for, increasing your spellcasting speed by 20%. This one right here, absolutely amazing, really good. It's not like anything insane, it's not like mage healer stuff or Warlock Tank stuff. It's spells we know from the past. It's like TBC and Wrath stuff, so nothing really insane for the class itself, but Frost Mages, by themselves, they're really good. Now Frost Mages, they are really good, but exactly how good are they compared to a lot of other classes and specs out there? I think to begin with, we're going to put the Frost Mage in, let's see, we have B tier. We can put Frost Mage in B tier right here, and hopefully that still looks good. Let me scroll down a little bit so we can see all the classes. There we go. I think that looks good to me. Once again, if we do have to make some improvements or any movements, we can move things as we go. It's just, I have a lot of classes that I think are going to be S tier and A tier, and compared to those, I think Frost Mage would be B tier, and I even have a suspicion that Fire might be doing better raid-wise. It just depends a little bit on your group setup and stuff like that. I think while we're looking at Mage, let's just get Mage out of the way. So we also have Fire Mage, for example. We can take a look at Fire real quick as well before we go over to Arcane. And for Arcane, you basically have Arcane DPS, and you also have this healer spec. So for Mage, there's 4 different specs. So let's start this off by looking at fire once again. For that, let's pick the runes first. So we have Burnout, increasing your spell critical strike chance of all spells by 15%, but your non-periodic spell critical strikes now have an additional mana cost, which we don't really care about because you're not really going to go out of mana anyway. You have a bunch of classes that work as mana batteries basically, so this one basically just gives you 15% crit baseline. That is massive. On top of that, you can have improved fireball, you even have ignite, dealing even more damage, which actually procs from your critical strikes. So imagine having burnout for 15% crit, and that will just give you ignite buffs back to back to back to back all the time. On top of that, you have pyroblast, obviously a really heavy hitting one right there that you can also use. You have improved flame strike for AoE, and for hands, let's just go through that one. Obviously living bomb, the iconic fire mage ability right here. So now you have both single target and AoE to begin with. You can even use living bomb for single target too, but you have single target and AoE. And over here you have a couple of things you can go for. For example, if you're single target, then Icy Veins might be the best one to go for, giving you 20% spell casting speed. But you also have Living Flame. Summons a spell of fire flame that moves towards the target, leaving a trail of spell fire. This one can be really interesting, but can also be really bad. It just depends on the fight itself. You have to know how to use it, and it's gonna create spell of fire, like a trail of spell fire between you and the target you're using it on, so you have to be mindful of where mobs are to use this one correctly, and I do think most people would rather go for the Icy Veins. I'm just going to pick this one for now, even though that would technically be more frost, but even for fire this one looks really good. And if you have a setup like this for raids, I just think fire is going to be way too good. There's no way I don't put fire in A tier at least. Yeah, I would put it in A tier for now. It could even be possibly S, but I'm going to put it in A tier. And then let's go to Arcane. Arcane DPS, you have a couple of good things, like let's just pick the runes first, then we can talk about what the actual abilities are. Enlightenment, you deal 10% more damage while you have more than 70% mana, and while below 30%, you get more mana regen while casting. For your hands, you then have Arcane Blast, and for your legs, you then have Arcane Surge. Now, Arcane Blast basically just blasts a bunch of damage to the target itself, and let's just go through this. Each time you cast Arcane Blast, the damage and healing of all other arcane spells is increased by 15%, and the mana cost of Arcane Blast is increased by 175%. So what you might want to do here, like this could be like an out-of-the-box thinking scenario, have one Arcane Mage DPS, and have one Chronomancer Mage healer. Especially if it affects everyone, not just you, because every time you cast Arcane Blast, the damage and healing, oh never mind, it's only personal, so ignore that, but the effect stacks up to 4 times, and increases the damage of all other arcane spells. Take that one with Arcane Surge, unleashes the power or all of your remaining mana in a surge of energy, focus at the target, causing arcane damage. So imagine you have Arcane Blast, you use this, get 4 stacks, the effect stacks up to 4 times, increasing all the damage of all other arcane spells, so you get 60% increase. After that, you either use Arcane Missiles, or you use Arcane Surge. It's just like playing on your mana, because after using Surge, you will have no mana left, but you will also get a lot more mana regen for 8 seconds. So for me, Arcane has really good potential, but it could also have a really steep learning curve, so it could be like low skill ceiling, high skill floor, if that makes sense. Yeah, for me, let's just find the Arcane really quick, Arcane DPS. Arcane DPS can be C tier, it can be B tier, it can be A tier. I think if you play Arcane the way it's supposed to be played, it's going to be A tier. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. Now once again, we have one more mage spec to go through, then we're done with the mage class, and that is Mage Healer. Now, I think it's worth noting here and worth saying that before the nerfs to the Mage Healer, Mage would be S tier. It would be the best class for PvP, PvE, single, like solo gameplay. It would just be insane, because the Mage Healer looked absolutely insane, both on paper and in the game. You could just heal yourself 24/7. I even saw duels at BlizzCon, for example, and during the demo, that people would duel, then heal themselves up, or the person that they just dueled, from 1% to 100% in a 2-second channel. That is absolutely insane. After that though, they have been nerfed quite heavily, in fact, like gotten their mana cost of all their heals increased by quite a bit, and even the numbers that tweaks how much you heal by have been nerfed massively. So they've been cut in half, sometimes more than that as well. So for me, mage healers, they have gone down quite a bit, but I would still put them in A tier, and once again, feel free to let me know your comments on that in the comments down below. We haven't really seen mage healers in like raids or long term at least. We did see it at the BlizzCon demo, so for this one, it's highly speculative, and we have no idea how it will play out, how well it will synergize with other classes. I just know that some other classes will have better focus healing, like a priest with barrier, or paladins with who now have beacon of light. So there's going to be way better healers, but mage healers could fill the resto druid role, for example, of healing the entire party or the entire raid. So mage healers still look really fun and really good, but they used to be like absolute top, like the Giga Chads of Classic WoW or Season of Discovery, but now they've moved down at least one rank because of those nerfs. Alright, next up on the tier list, I'm going to skip Paladin for now, even though it says Paladin, Holy, Plot and Ret right here. Then we have Disc as well. I'm going to jump a couple of classes here and talk about the Hunter, because personally I'm going to play a Hunter eventually. I am even considering playing a Hunter as my second class. For now, like, I'm thinking Warlock as my main, Hunter as my alt, and I just want to cover Hunter while I have it here. So let's talk about Beast Mastery. For me, Beast Mastery is looking like a really solid spec, and I'll show you why. If you go to their runes, like first of all, look at their talents, they can increase their own damage and their pet's damage or survival by so much. If you have improved aspect of the Hawk, for example, you're increasing your own damage by giving you more range attack speed right here. And then you have, for example, you can have improved revive pet, or you can have this one, or even this one, like whatever you choose here doesn't really matter too much. You can even go for more health on your pets if you really want to, but here we go. Unleashed Fury increases the damage done by your pets by 4% per talent point, 5 talent points right there, and because the level cap is 25, you can get all 5 of those points. So that's going to be 20% increased damage to your pet. Now let's look at the runes, right? So you can either go with aspect of the Lion, Cobra Strikes, Lone Wolf or Master Marksman. Obviously, you're a Beast Mastery Hunter in this case, you don't want to have Lone Wolf because you are a Beast Mastery Hunter. So think about this, go aspect of the Lion. This one is absolutely insane, increasing total stats by 10% for everyone in your party, and 10% more to yourself. So if you're using this, that is 20% stats. And you're providing a massive raid-wide buff, especially if you're playing Horde. You really want to have this, but even for Alliance, you really want to have this. It's just so good. 10% stats for yourself as well. That is so good. And then looking at hands, you have the Beast Mastery talent. We're going to cover the other ones later. Your pet's damage and health are increased by 30%, and the focus regen is increased by 80%. Think about this, once again, referring back to the talents, you have 20% and now 30% on top, and 80% focus regen. This is massive. And then going to legs, you have flanking strike, kill command, serpent spread or sniper training. You really want to have kill command in this case. Give the command to kill, increasing your pet's damage done from special attacks by 60% for 30 seconds, and each special attack done by the pet reduces the damage bonus by 20%, so basically giving you a damage bonus for 3 more special attacks. I don't know why, this spec looks really good to me, and the thing is, once again, almost all your damage will come from your pet in this case, so you don't have to care about your gear at all. It's only your pet. Just get a good pet, get some special attacks, and you're good to go. Looks like such a good and fun spec to me, not even gear dependent at all. Now I will say, the one bad thing about not being gear dependent is the scalability, because other classes that are gear dependent, they're gonna start being bad DPS or like mid DPS, and as they get more gear, they will slowly overcome absolutely everyone. Like, they just go from being bad to better to absolutely insane. The better you scale with the gear, obviously the more damage you will do, the more gear you will get. So hunters are just gonna be good, really good, and they're going going to stay really good as well. While a different class, they're going to enter the raid with less DPS than a Beast Mastery Hunter, but eventually they're going to catch up. But for me, Beast Mastery Hunters, they really deserve quite a high spot on the tier list, and because they, once again, they do have that low gear dependency, I'm going to put them in A tier. I really want to like put them up here with these guys. I'm going to put them like right here for now. In the A tier, once again, if we had a pure DPS list, I probably wouldn't put them here, they would probably be closer to B tier, but having that less gear dependency, and you can enter the raid dealing a bunch of DPS, I just think they're really gonna be good. And then we also have, for example, marksmanship. I think they're gonna be good, and now is when we're getting into the scaling with gear. Marksmanship scales really well with gear, so you can enter the raid with Beast Mastery, and as you get close to BIS or full BIS, you can just respec. You can respec to marksmanship, in which case, once again, you can keep using Aspect of the Lion, even though you really don't want to. You can go Lone Wolf for 15% more damage, or you can go Master Marksman to increase your critical strike by 5% and reduce the mana cost of all of your shot abilities by 5% or 25%. So, if you want to have more crit, this is the one to go for. If you want to have 15% flat damage increase, this one would be the one to go for. If you want to buff everyone, including yourself, this would be the one to go for. So for marksmanship, you have 3 separate ones that really work. And then for your hands, you have Carve, Chimera Shot, Explosive Shot, or Beast Mastery. What you go for here really depends on how you play, but I would probably go for Chimera Shot or Explosive Shot. Either one of those, but I would probably go for Chimera Shot. You deal X amount of weapon damage. Once again, that means if you have a really good ranged weapon, this percentage is going to hit heavy. It's a heavy hitter. Even back in Cataclysm, for example, I had a 2-shot macro on my Hunter carrying an arena, aimed shot into Chimera Shot, and that was usually enough to 2-shot just about everyone. So if I could somehow channel a 3-second cast with aimed shot right into a Chimera Shot, which is instant, that hits so much. So for me, I would pick this one, and then we have the legs, in which case you have Flanking Strike, Kill Command, Serpent Shred, Sniper Training, and that's about it. In this case, I really would go for Sniper Training. Your shot abilities gain 10% increased critical strike chance, while you have not moved for the last 6 seconds. So you really just want to stand still, get 10% increased crit, and there we go. Now your shots are going to crit all the time, and then once again, you can go for aimed shot right here. You can also go for lethal weapons or lethal shots for a total of 5% more crit, which is absolutely insane, right? And then after going aim shot, you also have the, you can go for improved arcane shot, you can go for Hawkeye, or you can even go back down to improved Hunter's Mark, or even like either one of these two. It's totally up to you. But for me, once again, marksmanship hunters, they deserve a spot right next to BM, and you know, I'm gonna put it like this, like marksmanship hunters I think will outperform BM hunters by quite a bit eventually, but the thing is, they really need to have that gear to get there. So to begin with, Beast Mastery will be better, I think, and then marksmanship, as you get better gear, you will slowly surpass them. The next spec on the list right here is classified as Survival Hunter. In that case, I'm going to make a modification, because Survival Hunters can be both ranged and melee. It just depends on how you pick your things. You can go for Serpent Spread, you can go for on the hands, you can have Carve, Chimera Shot, or even Explosive Shot, for example, and Chest Rune, and still be ranged as Survival. But because Melee Hunter has been introduced, I'm going to treat Survival Hunter in this case as a Melee Hunter, okay? Even though you can go for Melee Hunter, including Beast Mastery, if you want to be Melee Hunter, but for the sake of the tier list, just consider Survival Hunters to be Melee Hunters, okay? In this case, you have Aspect of the Lion once again, or Lone Wolf, it really depends, but once again, I would go for the Aspect. It's 10% stats to yourself, and 10% to everyone in your party, including yourself. So if you're using this, that is 20% stats for yourself and 10% to everyone else. So for me, I would still go for that one, that is just too good. And then you have the Carve ability, a sweeping attack that strikes all enemies in front of you for 50% weapon damage. Really good for AoE scenarios, and just like a melee ability as well, right? For the legs, you have Flanking Strike. You and your pet deal simultaneous instant 100% melee damage, and afterward your Mongoose Bite and Raptor Strike deal 10% increased damage for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Raptor Strike has a 20% chance to reset the cooldown on Flanking Strike, so basically just spamming Flanking Strike into Mongoose Bite or Raptor Strike and just doing that on repeat, and getting a stacking buff that stacks up to 3 times, increasing damage as well. Really good gameplay right there. It's going to be really fun to see how that plays out. So then we have Aspect of the Lion, Carve and Flanking Strike. To me, this looks like a really fun spec, but how competitive is it going to be for DPS? I really don't know, and because of that, I'm going to put it in B tier, right next to Frost. It could even be lower, but to me it just looks so fun to play that I'm gonna keep the Copium and Hopium going here and put it to the B tier. Okay, let's go to the class that I'm considering maining myself in Seasonal Discovery. Once again, I might change my mind as I play the class, but it's going to be a Warlock. That's going to be the first class that I intend to level up at least, and it's looking like a really fun class to play. In this case, we have 4 different specs, so strap yourself in. We're going to talk about 4 different specs for the Warlock class, and let's go to the Warlock Talent Calculator on Classic Wowhead as well. In this case, let's start off with Affliction, the spec I'm not going to play because I played it so much. You still have the same talents as usual, and when you go to your chest runes, you have Chaos Bolt, Demonic Tactics, Lakes of Fire, or Master Channeler, or Soul Siphon. If you're playing Affliction, I think you really want to go for either Master Channeler or Soul Siphon. I think personally I would go for Soul Siphon in this case, but you have like a mix and match here. But this one looks best to me, so I'm going to pick that one. And for the hands, you have Haunt, Metamorphosis, Shadowbolt Valley, and Chaos Bolt. For Affliction, you would obviously want to go for Haunt, that one is really obvious, and for legs you have Everlasting Affliction, Demonic Pact, Demonic Grace, Incinerate. In this case you have 2 separate ones to go for. Demonic Pact buffs you and your party members or raid members. This one is really good, providing utility to everyone and providing spell power to everyone, not just yourself. That being said, for like egoistic gameplay, Everlasting Affliction, Drain Life, Drain Soul, Shadowbolt, Shadow Cleave, Searing Pain, Incinerate and Haunt refresh the duration of your corruption on the target back to the maximum duration, so you never have to refresh corruption. Every other ability you use will basically refresh that one for you. This one could also be really good, but I think I would actually swap out that one global for Demonic Pact, because really, applying corruption is just like, it's literally one global compared to Demonic Pact. So for me, I would use this one, even for solo gameplay. It increases your own spell power and everyone else's spell power. That being said, Affliction of Warlocks, first of all, their damage come from damage over times. If you're doing a raid boss, level 25 raid, the bosses don't even last long enough for your damage over times to really start ticking. So you're building your damage over time, while what you really want to have is massive damage on demand, instead of slowly ramping up. Imagine you have a boss that spawns ads, for example. You're basically useless, because you have to throw dots on the ads, and the ads are probably going to die before your dots even deal damage. So for me, Affliction of Warlocks, in this case, bosses, they just die too fast, and Affliction would then be C tier. Next, let's go to Demonology, and for this one I have put in Warlock Tank down here. So Demonology Warlock, in this case, this icon, it's going to be Demonology DPS. So Demonology DPS, it's not looking really good, because you're basically using these ones right here to improve the damage of your Imp or your Succubus, which can be really good, like they can deal a lot of damage. But are they competitive in raids? I really don't think so. For the sake of looking through them though, let's take a look at all the runes that they're getting. So for the chest runes, you probably want to use something like Demonic Tactics. Increases the melee and spell critical strike chance of you and your pet by 10%. For the hands, you have a couple of ones to pick from, but Metamorphosis or Shadowbolt Volley. It just depends on what you want to pick. Metamorphosis is looking like a really big tank rune, so you probably want to stay away from that. So you can either use Chaos Bolt, Haunt, or even the other one. Shadowbolt Valley, like none of these really look suitable for Demonology, but I guess if you're in a AoE scenario, Shadowbolt Volley would really be the best one to go for. Single target, Haunt would be the best one to go for, so let's just pick Shadowbolt Volley for now, even though you can mix and match. And once again, looking at this, I still would go for Demonic Pact, so we're just going to keep Demonic Pact. To me, Demonology Warlocks don't really look that insane. Like sure, you can get your Succubus, sure. You can deal damage with the imp, sure. But you're looking like a massively nerfed Beast Mastery Hunter, because Beast Mastery Hunters, they're already good. They can get talents to increase their pet's damage by 20%, they get a rune further increasing it by 30%, and increasing focus regen. So for me, Demonology DPS, it's a spec you wouldn't play. Why would you play Demonology DPS over either Affliction or even like Destruction? For me, Demo is like obvious D tier. Let's talk about Destruction now that we're on the topic. For Destruction, you have Chaos Bolt. I think that's actually not a chest rune. Chaos Bolt is supposed to be a hands rune, because it's listed as both chest and is also listed as hands. I really do believe it's supposed to be hands, because otherwise there's nothing for Destro in the hands ability, so we're gonna pick Chaos Bolt here, and for chest we're picking Lake of Fire, and for legs we're picking Incinerate. In this case we have a massive combo. Let me just show you right now. Lake of Fire leaves a Lake of Fire on the ground that increases all fire damage you deal and your demon pet deals to affected enemies by 40%. For 15 seconds. Chaos Bolt deals a bunch of fire damage, and Incinerate increases all fire damage you deal by 25% for the next 15 seconds. So here's what I would do. I would use Rain of Fire. This one is a channel. You use Rain of Fire until it leaves the debuff, in this case, which leaves a Lake of Fire, right? Just don't even channel it for the whole duration. Let's just imagine you're on a raid boss. It's only one target. Use Lake of Fire just to get a debuff. This gives you 40% increased damage to the target or fire damage. After that point, use one Incinerate, use Chaos Bolt, then spam Incinerate. It's gonna give you so much bonus damage all the time, and just mix that with all of your otherwise damage abilities that you have as well, right? It's looking so insane. For me, Destruction is looking really, really good, and it's what I'm gonna play. Destruction is what I'm gonna play. So since I'm playing it, it's obviously S tier. I'm just gonna let that sit for a while. Okay, it's not S tier, but it would be like A tier. I don't really know where I would put it in the A tier though. You know what? I'm gonna put it right there. Fire, then Destro, then Arcane, and while I'm out here making some adjustments, I'm gonna do this. Fire, Destro, Marksmanship, Arcane, Heal, and Beast Mastery. That's looking good to me. So let's talk about Warlock Tank. If you've seen anything from BlizzCon, they're looking really good, but they have been slightly nerfed since then, but it's just their baseline threat. Their baseline threat has been nerfed, but they still have taunt and stuff, so they're looking really good. So first of all, you have Demonic Tactics, increases the melee and spell critical strike chance, looking really good. Master Channeler, Drain Life is no longer channeled, lasts 15 seconds with a 15-second cooldown, costs more mana, and heals you for 50% more every time it deals damage. So what you pick here depends on how you play. For example, this one can be really good to build more threat and giving you more damage output, right? Demonic Tactics. That's probably going to be what most people end up going for. But if you want more solo, sustain, survival, Master Channeler might be what you go for. I'm just going to pick that now, but I'm talking about Demonic Tactics at the same time, so you can mix and match. For the hands though, you have one obvious one, Metamorphosis. I'm not gonna read the entire thing because that is a long read, but basically it gives you a taunt, gives you more threat, more survivability, absolutely massive. For the legs, you also have a couple of things. Demonic Grace is gonna be the one you go for though. Surge with Fell Energy, increasing your pets and your own dodge chance by 30%, and your chance to critically strike with all attacks by 30%, and last for 6 seconds. Basically a big defensive cooldown. This one, absolutely massive. And Warlock Tanks, they're looking really good. I'm going to place them really high on the list itself. I don't really know how high. They're not going to be S tier for me. They would be, and they still can be. They're going to be a high A tier. Once again, this one is highly speculative because we haven't even seen Warlock Tanks. Like, all we have seen is from the BlizzCon demo, which was really, really short. So for me, I'm going to put them right here. Feel free to disagree with me on that one, but for now, I think they're going to be really good. They're looking really good. Now, so far, I think I've been really generous on the rankings, so it's time to start pissing people off by putting some lower ranks and see what people think. Now, I'm not doing this on purpose, it's just a couple of classes that I think are going to perform less than other classes, so I'm not just doing this to throw you off, but let's talk about Shaman. Let's go to the Shaman talent calculator on Wowhead as well, and take a look at, for example, Elemental. Let's start with Elemental. So first of all, you have the obvious talent points that everyone knows from the past. You can increase your damage done, or reduce the mana cost of your abilities, and then you have stuff like, for example, Call of Flames, increasing the damage done by your fire totems, and you even have Elemental Focus, right? Now for the runes, you have a couple of things here as well. The main one is Overload, gives you Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Chain Heal, and all of your other spells basically, a 33% chance to cast a second similar spell on the same target at no additional cost that causes half the damage or half the healing and no threat. Basically just a flat out damage increase on a proc chance though, just keep that in mind. You have Lava Burst, did I say Lava Burst instead of Lava Burst? It's whatever, dude. And then we have Legs, Ancestral Guidance, Shamanistic Rage, or Way of Earth. I think what you pick here really depends on the actual scenario and which raid setup you have. You can swap these out on the fly, so if you're lacking healing, then Ancestral Guidance will give you additional healing, but I think for most Elemental Shamans you might actually end up lacking mana. You're still gonna run out of mana really fast, but once again that really depends on your setup. If you have a paladin in your group, they are going to regen mana to everyone so much. So it once again depends on your group. If you have a paladin, red paladin in that case, they're going to regen so much mana. If you have two red paladins, you're really good for life, and if you need more healing, Ancestral Guidance. In this case, let's just pick Shamanistic Rage, but what they really have is Overload and Lava Burst. They're not really looking insane to me. Like, sure, Lava Burst will always critical strike. That's it. That's the insane part for Elementals. Once again, Elemental Shamans in Classic WoW, they really become good, but they also struggle a little bit. They struggle a little bit with mana, but that might be over now. Having both Shamanistic Rage and Red Paladins as mana batteries, that might help them out. That being said, Shamans get good after level 40, or like at a higher levels, right? So for level 25, I don't really know if I would put them there. Like most of their good talents, they get access to way later. Look at Elemental Devastation, for example, that is way later in the talents, and even stuff like Elemental Mastery is way later down in the talents, and Elemental Fury as well. So like they get access to a bunch of stuff that really enhances their DPS, but it's so late, much later down the line that for me, Elemental Shamans, they're gonna be C tier. I would even go as far as put them here just to piss people off even more, but I'm gonna realistically put them in C tier, and I'm prepared to be surprised if they end up performing better. Now, next up we have Enhancement Shamans, and once again, they're in kind of a similar situation. Blizzard have taken the path of putting dual wield shamans, and I'll be having a different video on this topic, but I really wanted to have a two-handed enhancement. But dual wield shamans in this case increases your chance to hit, so more hit chance, not more damage though, just more hit chance, which is kinda sad. Then you have Lava Lash, and for legs you have Ancestral Guidance, Earth Shield, Shamanistic Rage, or Way of Earth. Once again, I think it depends on your setup. You could go for Ancestral Guidance to provide more healing to the group, and Shamanistic Rage to give yourself more mana. Now personally, I would probably go for this one. So for me, the enhancement, once again, is in a scenario that you don't really get anything good in your talent points before later, right? If you look here at the talents you're getting, all of them are really weird. You're getting enhanced totems, sure. You can learn two-handed stuff, which is really weird because we only have dual wield specialization, and you have anticipation, increasing your chance to dodge. There's not that much things that are really enhancing your DPS. You get flurry, but that's like level 30 plus. You get elemental weapons way later down the line, improved weapon totems way later down the line, and even Storm Strike way later down the line. So for me, it's just looking so weird to be enhancement that actually, yeah, there we go, C tier. Below Elemental, by the way. So C tier, below Elemental, just because so many of their things they get access to like level 40 plus. Level 40 plus, they could end up being really good, but at level 25, I simply just don't see it. Now we have two more shaman specs to talk about. Let's start off with the healer spec. In this case you have Healing Rain, obvious choice there for healers as the chest rune. For their hand runes you have Water Shield, giving you more mana regen at the same time. And for the legs you have Earth Shield. The thing about shields is you can only have one up per target, but you usually use Water Shield on yourself and Earth Shield on the tanks. That being said, like sure, this gives you 3 brand new abilities, which really helps at shamans quite a bit. But are they going to be insane? At level 25, what do you really have? You don't really have Chain Heal, you don't have Riptide, you don't have Mana Tide Totem. It really depends on how many new things they add on top of these runes, but to me, Resto Shamans are not really looking that insane. They're not looking bad either, they're just not looking absolutely insane. So for me, Resto Shamans, they would be like either high C tier or low B tier. Well, I will say I've never played Horde in Classic WoW, so for me the knowledge on Resto Shamans is very limited, and based on that, just based on how it looks on paper, I'm gonna put Resto Shamans down high C tier. Like really high C tier though. But once again, you could make an argument for them being higher as well, like really could. Because they're getting 3 brand new abilities, providing them AoE healing, tank healing, and also more mana regen. So they're getting a bunch of new things that really does help them out. You know, I think I've changed my mind. I think I would put them here. I'm gonna put them in B tier. Let me know if you disagree or if you want to have them higher or lower in the comments down below. Now we have Shaman tanks. Let's talk about the runes. For Shaman tanks, you obviously want to have Shield Mastery first to give you more block chance and also mana back when you block. Really good right there. For the hands, you have Molten Blast, obviously, a frontal cone basically, that deals a high amount of threat as well. For the legs, you have Shamanistic Rage, Earth Shield, and Way of Earth. You have to have Way of Earth. That is just, you have to have it. You deal 50% more threat, you have more health. This one is mandatory, not even optional, mandatory. Now, for me, Shamans are looking good if you want to tank. If you combine all of these runes, you have the Shield Mastery giving you way more block chance and also armor right when you block. It's absolutely insane. Molten Blast is looking good to generate aggro, and you even get Taunt when you have Way of Earth. Combine this with Shield Specialization right here, increases your chance to block by 1% and increases the amount blocked as well by 5%. So this one right here, Shield Spec with Shield Mastery, that's an insane combo. After that, you can even use stuff like Guardian Totems if you really want to have that, or you can go for Lightning Shield, or even like literally anything else. You can go for Thundering Strikes if you want to have more critical strike chance yourself. After that, it's when the real fun begins, and you have Anticipation to increase your dodge chance by 1% per talent point, for a total of 5%. So for me, like, Shamans are looking good. They really are. Like, I would rank Shaman tanks quite high up there, next to Warlock tanks. This one could once again really be speculative and could be argued, but for me, Shaman tanks, they really are looking good. Especially how good though, we'll have to wait and see, but it's just looking like they block so much damage, and you can wear mail. You can wear mail, combine that with the Way of Earth, giving you way more health, and then also more armor from Shield Mastery. It's just looking really good. I think I'm going to put them one step here. There we go. This one I can be happy with. For Shamans, I can be really happy with this. Next up, let's talk about the Druid. We actually have covered quite a few classes so far. We have covered almost half. Or have we covered half? I think we've covered half. The Druid though comes with 4 specs, or 4 different specs basically, as we have Balance, Feral DPS, Feral Tank, and Restoration. Alright, let's start this off by talking about Boomkin. I think that's a controversial topic when it comes to Classic WoW as a whole. They've been the meme spec of the century. That and Retribution Paladins obviously, but now things are about to change. You're getting Fury of the Storm Rage, reducing the mana cost of Wrath by 100%, and every time you deal damage with Wrath you have a 12% chance for your next cast of Healing Touch within 15 seconds to be instant. So first of all, you're dealing the same damage, no mana cost at all, and you can even help on the healing. That is great. So Fury of the Storm Rage reduces the mana cost of being a Boomkin by a massive amount. Combine this with improved Wrath to reduce the casting time, it's gonna be great. And then you can either go for improved Moonstrike or in natural weapons as well, even though that's physical damage, so probably would go for Moonstrike, right? And take it from there. For the hands though, you have Mangle, Lacerate, Sunfire, Wild Growth. Obviously, you really want to have the Sunfire here, there's not really anything else you would grab. Sunfire, Wild Growth, yeah, go for Sunfire. So for legs, you have Life Bloom, Savage Roar, Skull Bash or Star Surge. If you're playing Boomkin, it's kinda obvious you want to have Star Surge, it's your primary ability. It's like such a massive hitter that Star Surge you really want to have. For me though, Boomkins aren't looking insane, like you get better as you go. Moonkin form. Not gonna be available at level 25. This is like level 40 plus. It's gonna be a long while until you get your Moonkin form. You don't have Nature's Grace, you don't have Moon Fury, you don't have Moon Glow. There's so many talents you don't have. Even this one gives you so much critical strike chance and critical strike damage bonus from Vengeance, right? So Boomkins for me at level 25, it's kind of a weird spec, and I wouldn't play it. I really wouldn't, but at the same time, they're not really that bad. I would put them like over here, but yeah, C tier. And high C tier as well, because they're not Affliction, Elemental or Enhancement type of bad, but they're still kind of meh, if that makes sense. Next up, let's talk about Feral Druid DPS. This is something I want to play. I want to play a Feral Druid DPS at some point, I just don't know when. But first of all, we have Wild Strikes. This one, while you're in cat form, bear form or dire bear form, party members within 20 yards gain increased combat velocity. Each melee hit has a 20% chance of granting the attacker an extra attack with 20% additional attack power, and has no effect if the party is already benefiting from Wind Fury totem. So it's basically if you're playing Alliance and you want to have Wind Fury, you can just bring a Feral Druid. Even if you're playing Horde, you can bring a Feral Druid, and the Shaman can use a different totem. It's absolutely fantastic. For the hands, you obviously want to have Mangle. For the legs, you obviously want to have Savage Roar. This one, Savage Roar, increasing your damage done by 30%, lasting longer per combo point. And Mangle as well, absolutely insane. Look at Mangle. Gains the Mangle Bear and Mangle Cat ability, working both in cat and in bear. This is looking so good. Mangle the target for 160% or 300% additional damage, and causes the target to take 30% additional damage from bleed effect and shred. That is massive. So yeah, for me, Feral Druids are looking really good. Obviously you can use this, you can have all the runes, and then you have the talents. For Feral Druid, the talents actually start giving you a lot of benefits really early. You can have Ferocity to reduce the cost of your main abilities by 1 per point, so 5 energy cost less, or even use Feral Aggression for more damage from Ferocious Bite, which I don't think you will have for quite a while, so I would probably go for Ferocity in this case. And then you have something like Feral Instinct to reduce your threat, or reduce the chance enemies have and increase your threat, I mean. And then you have Brutal Impact, or even Thick Hide. If you want to go pure DPS output, you probably want to have both of these, even though Ferocious Bite probably won't be available for quite a while, but you probably want to have both of these just to get to 10 points. After that, you have Sharpened Claws, giving you more critical strike chance, and if you care about the open world at all, you want to have a Herbalism Alt or something. Feline Swiftness increases your movement speed by 15% per talent point while outdoors, and also gives you a chance to dodge 2% per point, and you can have 2 points. So for me, Feral Druids are looking really good. Feral Druid DPS, I'm gonna put them like up here somewhere, and I don't think they will be, actually I do. I think they will outperform Frost. I'm gonna be hopeful. Like, I really am. And the fact that you're bringing Wild Strikes as well, you can even make an argument that they're even higher on the list. Like, for me, I'm gonna leave them in B tier for now, but I wouldn't be surprised if Feral DPS tops the meters. Like, actually though. So this one is kind of questionable. I just want to put it at B tier for now. I kinda want to go to A tier though. Like, I kind of want to put them up between marksman and tank like this. But I also feel like I'm having way too many in A tier now, and I don't know how they will perform compared to other melee classes like warriors, rogues, right? I'm gonna keep it like this, okay? And we'll see what happens. We do have one more druid spec to talk about though, that is Resto Druid. Let's do that as well really quick. So we have Living Seed. When you critically heal your target with any healing spell, you plant a Living Seed on the target for 30% of the amount healed, and the Living Seed will bloom when the target is next attack, giving you more healing, right? And then you have the Hands rune, in which case you want to have Wild Growth and AoE heal, and for the legs you want to have Life Bloom. Oh, I love Life Bloom, I really do. So Life Bloom, Wild Growth, and Living Seed, those are really fun, really interesting. When it comes to the talents, they're really straightforward. The only really one you care about is probably Improved Mark of the Wild and Improved Healing Touch. Those are the two big ones. Reflection to give more mana regen probably. Yeah. Resto Druid to me are looking kind of good. I do think Resto Druid's primary job is going to be like the raid healer. If you bring 2 healers in a raid, the Resto Druid will keep everyone alive, and you want to have one healer that focus heals the tanks, because the tanks are going to take most damage, right? Probably at level 25 anyways, so you want to have one Resto Druid to heal everyone, and you want to have one healer like a Disc Priest, Holy Paladin, that just spam heals the tank all the time. So Resto Druid heals the raid. For Resto Druid, I think I'm going to put them right next to Resto Shamans, and you know I'm going to do this, I'm going to swap them. So Resto Druid, then Resto Shaman. Next up we have Feral Tanks. Now, what do we think about Feral Tanks, boys? First of all, you have the Chest Rune, the Survival of the Fittest, reduces the chance you'll be critically hit by melee attacks by 6%, and reduces all damage taken by 10%. Damage taken reduced by an additional 10% while in bear form, so 20% less damage taken overall. Then you have Lacerate. Hopefully I said that correctly this time. Lacerates at the enemy target, making them bleed for X amount of damage per existing application of Lacerate on the target, and this one causes a high amount of threat. Think about this like Sunder Armor, but also deals a bleed effect, and it stacks up to 5 times and causes high threat every single time. Then you have Skull Bash. I couldn't really find anything better to pick on the legs, because you have Star Surge, Skull Bash, Savage Roar and Life Bloom. Kinda sad, but hey, you have Skull Bash, so you can actually, yeah, interrupt something, which I guess is kinda cool, but I would really wanna see something else here, like an AoE taunt, or something that can help you a little bit with aggro, I suppose, as a Feral Tank. For me, Feral Tanks aren't looking that insane. Like, are they looking bad? Probably not, but at the same time, would I play any other tank? Yeah, I would play any other tank. I would rather be a Prot Warrior, I would rather want to be a Warlock or a Shaman, even a Rogue. So for me, like, Druid Tanks is not the one I would pick, and you know what? It's gonna be like this, it's gonna be C tier. It could be D, could be C or D, right? For me at least, that's gonna be down there when it comes to Feral Tank. You can make it work. Take the tier list for what it is, it's a suggestion or my thoughts about every single class, but it just shows you that they're like kinda close. Everything is A, B or C tier so far, nothing really in S tier, but once again, that might change. I might make some modifications here on the tier list itself towards the end, just to like, yeah, see how it feels. Speaking of S tier, let's get into it and talk about the Warrior. Let's start this off by talking about the Prot Warrior, so let's go to Warriors on the talent calculators and take a look at the chest runes. For chest runes you have Blood Frenzy, Flagellation, Raging Blow or Warbringer. What you would pick here as a tank, I don't really know. It really depends on your playstyle. You can mix and match. You have Blood Frenzy to actually gain more rage, you have Raging Blow to give you more instant damage, or Flagellation to gain a 25% bonus to physical damage done. You even have this one for Warbringer. Let's just pick this for now. Let's go to hands. You have Devastate. Obviously you really want to have Devastate in this case. Sunder Armor also deals 100% weapon damage, increased by 10% per application of Sunder Armor already on the target. Yeah, you really want to go for that one. And for the legs you have Furious Thunder, Frenzied Assault or Consumed by Rage. I think they really want you to go for Furious Thunder. You can mix and match, but I think this is the one you should go for as well. Thunderclap now increases the time between attacks by an additional 6%, can be used in any stance, and deals 50% increased threat, giving you the one thing that warriors really need at this level, an AoE threat, more AoE threat. So Thunderclap now deals way more AoE threat, and for me, Proto Warriors are looking really good. You already have the good talents, you have shield spec, giving you basically the same thing as Shamans for their shield spec, and if you spec down, you have improved Revenge, you have Defiance, more threat generation, right, and improved shield block. They just have so many good things. You even have Last Stand. You have ability to have Last Stand at level 25. How cool is that, huh? So for me, Proto Warriors, they're really good. They're still going to be like one of the best tanks. I'm going to put them like up in the A tier for tanking, I suppose. I don't really know how far up I would put them, but for tanking, I'm going to put them like this. For tank. I think they're going to be A tier. Proto Warrior tanking, like Proto Warriors, they're just so good for tanking. They really are. For single target threat generation, now AoE threat as well through Furious Thunder, having Devastate as well, right, to get even more damage and threat generation from Thunder Armor. It's just, they're looking really good, if you ask me. Now let's talk about Fury. Fury Warriors, the chest runes, I don't really think it would change anything in this case. Flagellation is still insane. That 25% bonus to physical damage done is just so massive to me. So I'm going to keep this for now. Probably you could pick Raging Blow, you could pick something else, but I'm just going to keep this for now. For the hand rune though, you have Endless Rage, Quick Strike, Single-Minded Fury. So let's take a look at Single-Minded Fury. While dual wielding, your physical damage and movement speed are increased by 10%. And I think if you're playing Fury, you really want to play with dual wielding, right? You can go for Quick Strike as well to give you basically a new strike ability, right? Endless Rage if you're struggling with Rage, generating 25% more Rage from all the damage you deal. But let's just say you're playing with dual wield in mind, so Single-Minded Fury. In this case, you also have the leg runes for Consumed by Rage, and that is the only one that makes sense, because the other one is while wielding two-handed weapons. So in this case, enrages you and grants you a 20% melee damage bonus for 12 seconds. So, Consumed by Rage, 20% melee damage bonus, Single-Minded Fury, permanent 10% damage bonus, and Flagellation, 25%. Physical damage done bonus. Fury Warriors are going to be the first class that I put into S tier on my tier list, and we'll have to see how that works out, but Fury Warriors topping DPS again, bro, in a brand new season, we'll see. Maybe I should put something else up there with them as well. Once again, I might make some alterations here towards the end. Let's talk about arms. So arms warriors, once again, you probably would still want to have Flagellation, either that or Blood Frenzy, kind of depends a little bit, but for the hands, you probably don't want to have Single-Minded Fury, because you probably want to play a two-hander, so let's just go with Endless Rage. You generate 25% more Rage from all the damage that you personally deal, and then we also want to have Frenzied Assault. While wielding two-handed weapons, your attack speed is increased by 20%. For me, they're looking really good. Arms warriors are looking really good, but how strong is arms going to be at this level? I don't really know, because you don't have things like sweeping strikes, you don't have things like your axe specializations or sword specializations, and you don't have mortal strike. So for me, arms warriors would probably be somewhere along B tier. Fury S and arms B. Arms could be higher. It really depends on how you play. But I think this is like, I would be happy with this for Warriors. I haven't played Warriors that much in Classic WoW, I'll be honest and say that. I feel like everyone else is playing Warriors, I'm playing something else, because we already have enough Warriors. But I might play one in Seasonal Discovery, I might actually have to give one a try. But yeah, for now, I feel kinda happy. Fury should be S tier, it's just looking way too insane. Let's talk about one more that's gonna go straight up into S tier, Paladins. Not every spec though, but let's talk about one. Let's start with Ret. For Ret, you have a couple different ones you can pick from. You have Horn of Lordaeron buffing everyone including yourself, you have Divine Storm and AoE ability right here, and you have Seal of Martyrdom. Seal of Martyrdom fills you with Holy Spirit for 30 seconds, causing each of your melee attacks to deal 30% weapon damage to your target, but you also lose health equal to 10% of the damage inflicted. While the seal is active, your party members within 40 yards each gain mana equal to 10% of the damage you take from this seal. So you take 10% of all damage you deal, and you give mana back equal to 10% of that. So basically you give 1% of, if you deal 100 damage, you get 1 mana back to someone, if I did my math correctly, like ish. Unleashing the seal's energy will judge an enemy, instantly causing 70% weapon damage at the cost of health equal to 10% of the damage inflicted. Now, if you watched anyone play at BlizzCon during the demo, Seal of Martyrdom hit 3 targets. Now it only hits 1. Before it hit 3 targets, so you could multi with this one, you could hit multiple targets. Now it only hits 1, so that's a slight nerf, which means that if it's a single target scenario, you want to have Seal of Martyrdom. If it's AoE, you probably want to have Divine Storm. But in this case, let's pick Seal of Martyrdom, it's looking really good. And for the hands, you obviously have Crusader Strike, we finally have Crusader Strike. For legs, you have Avenger Shield, the D-Sac, Exorcist, Inspiring Exemplar and Rebuke. What you pick here depends on the situation. If you want to have more kicks, then Rebuke is really good. But I think for many scenarios you probably want to have D-Sac, which is a really good raid-wide, party-wide defensive ability. So for this one, it's like more utility based. It's based on what your raid or group needs in this case, because everything here kind of helps the group. Except for the Divine Shield, right? But Inspiring Exemplar dispels Fear and Sleep effects, Rebuke, Interrupt, and yeah, Divine Sacrifice. So I'm gonna go with Divine Sacrifice in this case, but by playing Retribution, it's looking like a really solid spec now that you have both Crusader Strike and Seal of Martyrdom, and for me, Retribution Paladins, they used to be here in the past. They used to be a D tier, or like if there was a tier below D tier, they would be there as well. Now they're gonna go all the way up. Yeah, I'm not even joking. For me, Retribution Paladins, they could be topping DPS. If you look back at the BlizzCon demo, Retribution Paladins, they were topping DPS. They actually were. So, once again, the Seal of Martyrdom has been nerfed a little bit by only hitting 1 target now instead of 3. But I still think they're going to be really good. You could make an argument to put them down, but instead I'm going to put some of these up into S tier at the end of the video, so we're going to keep it like this for now. And at this point we have 2 more specs to cover for Paladins, and then we have 2 more classes, and then we're done. So, let's go to Holy Paladin. For Holy Paladin, you have a really good talents to pick from. You have 2% intellect times 5, so 10% more intellect, and you even have Healing Light. It increases the amount healed by your Holy Light and Flash of Light by 4% per talent point for 3 talent points. That's like 12% increased healing. On top of that, improved lay on hands if you want to, or even Consecration for more damage output. So Holy Paladins by themselves are looking really good, and then Divine Storm, an instant weapon that also heals. So instant weapon attack that causes 110% of weapon damage to up to 4 enemies within 8 yards. The Divine Storm heals up to 3 party or raid members, totaling 25% of the damage caused. So you can either use Horn of Lordaeron to buff everyone in your party with this instead to be a buffing healer, or you can go for Divine Storm and use a 2-hander. So in that case you can be in the melee, right? Heal in the melee as you would otherwise do as a Holy Paladin anyway, just to get those auto attacks with the seals to get mana back. So Judgment of Wisdom. And then Divine Storm. So using your 2-handed, you can then Divine Storm, deal damage to the boss, and also heal everyone around you at the same time. So Divine Storm can actually be really useful for a Holy Paladin, providing more melee utility at the same time. Once again, you can obviously pick Horn of Lordaeron to buff as well, but let's just go with Divine Storm just to keep it different. Beacon of Light, obvious choice for the hand runes, and for the legs you have a bunch of different choices again, but I would go for D-Sac. Divine Sacrifice, obvious choice for me personally. So for me, Holy Paladins, they're looking absolutely insane, really good healers, and I'm gonna put them up here. Actually, here. Yeah, this is something I can live with. Holy Paladins, they always have been good, they're always going to be good, and they're still going to be good. I think, yeah, this is, I'm happy with that placement. Then we have Prot Paladins. Okay, so the first thing to look at for Prot Paladins are their runes. First of all, you have Aegis, increases your block chance by 30%, and the damaging melee and ranged attacks against you have a 10% chance to increase your block chance by 30%, lasts for 10 seconds or 5 blocks. Then here we have Hand of Reckoning, a taunt, and then for legs we have Avenger's Shield. Basically dealing a bunch of holy damage, dazing them, and jumping to additional nearby enemies, which basically gives you an additional taunt or threat ability, high threat ability, for several targets. So if you want to engage combat, just use this, hit 3 people, get them to melee, use Consecration, and you can hold AoE threat. Now if you want to be a Prot Paladin, you can go for different specs here. You have Redoubt to increase your block chance, your chance to block attacks. You have Improved Devotion Aura. You can go down to Shield spec. So Redoubt into Shield spec. You can even use Toughness. If you're raiding and if you're tanking a raid as a paladin, you really want to have Prot spec. But also if you're doing dungeons, you can hold really good AoE threat by having Consecration. So you could make an argument to go into the Holy spec and get Consecration, but you also really want to have Redoubt. So at level 25 cap, you probably want to have Redoubt and also improved Righteous Fury, right, to increase the amount of threat generated by that. So you want to have Redoubt. You want to have something else, probably Toughness, you want to have Shield Specialization, and you want to have Improved Righteous Fury. But as you level up further, you can also open up the ability to have Consecration to hold a really good AoE threat. That being said, you don't have the ability to have all of this plus Consecration, so for me, Prot Paladins, they're not really going to be ranked that high. If you're doing raids, dungeons, pretty much anything, I do think there's better tanks. Even Warlock tanks are really good, Prot Warriors are good, even Shaman tanks, they're really good. So for me, Prot Paladins, they would be like somewhere along low B tier, they could even be like high C tier or low B tier. I think for now I'm gonna put them like this, really high C tier. Or am I? Yeah, no, I'm gonna do this. Low B tier. Low B tier instead of high C tier. I feel like C tier, that's balanced Druid, Affliction, Warlock, Elemental Shaman. I don't think Prot Paladins should be there. But once again, let me know if you have anything to add in the comments down below. Now let's talk about rogues, and as I'm doing this I also realized that I didn't really put in Rogue Tank as an icon here, so let me fix that. At this point, this video is already 1 hour long, and we have 2 more classes to go through today, so let's talk about the Priest. Let's start this off by talking about Shadow, and for Shadow, you obviously already know about the talent points. Let's talk about the Season of Discovery, runes. You have Twisted Faith and Void Plague, depends on how you want to play. I'm just going to pick Void Plague for now. You have Hands, you have Mindseer, you also have Shadowword Death. You have Mindseer or Shadowword Death, once again, depends on how you want to play. I'm actually going to pick Shadowword Death for now, for like raid setups, and then you have Homunculi or Shared Pain. Once again, depends a little bit on how you want to play, but I think Homunculi would probably be the best one to reduce their attack speed, attack power, and even armor, which I do think stacks with Sunder armor, but feel free to let me know if that actually stacks or not in the comments down below. But that is a lot of raid utility you're providing as Shadow, but also you're not getting that much for yourself. You have Void Plague, which sure, might increase your damage by a little bit. You have Shadowword Death, which might increase your damage by a little bit, but you will still have mana problems. You don't have an interrupt or a silence or anything, and for me Shadow is just looking kind of meh still. It's looking better than it was in the past, and you still have the mana battery of a Ret Paladin that might be with you right through Seal of Martyrdom, but will that be enough to actually keep you up? For me, Shadow Priest, they're gonna be low. They're gonna be really low. It's either going to be the really low C tier, or it's going to be like D tier, like actually D tier, but I'm gonna put it in C tier. Just because I do want to give Shadow Priest some love at least, but for now, it's gonna be like this, yeah. Yeah, Shadow Priest. Once again, it could actually be going down to D tier though. For Holy Priests, I don't really know why you would play Holy over playing Disc. I guess if you want to heal, because if you're playing Discipline, you're more shielding than you're healing, right? So for Holy, you're healing more. You have Holy Nova as well, which is actually really fun to play around with. So Holy Nova, dealing damage and healing in a circle or a Nova, if you will, around you. You have improved Renew, you have greater critical strike chance from healing. Basically, you're healing. So as a priest, you have 2 paths to go. You can either shield or you can heal. Now, what you want to do depends on your healer or on your setup. If you have a good healer setup, then probably you would want to shield, because shielding incoming damage, let's just put it like this, a boss will deal 100% of someone's health in 1 hit. If you're healing, you can't heal 100%. If you're shielding, you can. So Disc Priest for me would be way better. So for Holy, I'm gonna put Holy like this, because there's still a good healer, you can still heal, and you can make several arguments for having a Holy Priest. It's just, I wouldn't go Holy over going Disc. I could even make an argument for having Holy down in the C tier, like high C tier. It's high C tier or low B tier at best, if you ask me, for healing. So, yeah. Well, once again, it kinda depends a little bit, but for me, I just would put it in C tier over B tier, especially because Disc, once again, can make you survive something that you otherwise wouldn't. So let's just take a look at the Disc stuff as well. Actually, for Holy, I should probably have shown the runes. You have Serendipity. For the hands, you have a Circle of Healing, so once again, more healing. And for the legs, you have Powered Barrier, Prayer of Mending. You can basically mix and match, but I think for most people, you probably want to have Powered Barrier in this case. So let's just go for Powered Barrier. And you know what, just because of the runes that I wasn't even taking into consideration, they jumped up 1 tier, so low B tier. They could even be like more towards here, but I'm gonna keep them low B tier for now. And then we have Disc. So for Disc, you have Serendipity, Strength of Soul, and you probably want to have Strength of Soul in this case, right? And let's just talk about this for a second. Lesser heal, all of your healing spells basically. Reduce the remaining duration of Weakened Soul, the debuff after shielding someone, on targets a heal by 4 seconds per cast. In addition, targets of your powered shield will gain rage from taking damage despite the damage being absorbed. One of the bad things about having a Disc Priest was that your prot warriors couldn't generate rage and stuff like that. Right now they can, and Righteous Fury will trigger from damage absorbed by your powered shield as if it were a heal. So this makes Disc even more playable, as if they weren't playable enough already. Then you have Penance, that is just penance, healing. And when it comes to your legs, you can mix and match. Prayer of Mending can increase your healing by quite a bit, but Powered Barrier, once again, it will just make people survive things they otherwise wouldn't, providing a barrier that reduces all damage taken by 25% and preventing damage from delaying spellcasting. So if it's a raid setup, I would 100% go for Barrier. If I'm doing dungeons, I might go for Prayer of Mending just to provide more healing, but for raiding, definitely Barrier every single day. So for Disc, they're going to be way better. Like Disc healers, they're right up here with like Mage, Paladin, and all of these things. I'm gonna put them right here. Yeah, this looks good to me. Arcane Disc, Holy Paladin. Yeah, I'm gonna be happy with this. And that leaves us with only one class, the Rogue. Let's start off with combat. I think that's the most played spec anyway for rogues, right? And I don't think that's gonna change. I really don't. Like, combat is just too good. Even at lower levels it's gonna be good, because first of all you have improved Sinister Strike, you have Precision to give you more hit, and you even have things like improved Backstab if you want to go for Backstab, which you probably don't. But it's just so many things here that really gives you more stuff. And you don't have to care about being behind the enemy, you just deal great damage overall. So for combat, actually let's look at the runes. I almost forget, but let's look at the runes. You have Slaughter from the Shadows, which we don't want to have, Quick Draw, which you could technically have, and Deadly Brew. Now, what you pick here as combat, it's either going to be Deadly Brew or Quick Draw. It depends a little bit on the actual setup of the fight, but I'm just going to pick Deadly Brew for now, even though that's way better for assassination, especially later down the line. Now for hands, you have Main Gouge, Mutilate, Saber Slash, Shadow Strike and Shiv. So let's look at Saber Slash. Viciously slash an enemy for 130% weapon damage and cause the target to bleed for X amount every 2 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. And Saber Slash benefits from all talents and effects that trigger from or modify Sinister Strike. So basically just an improved Sinister Strike, right? It's looking really good. So this one I would obviously pick if I'm playing combat, and then for legs we have Blade Dance, Between the Eyes, and Envenom. Now in this case you can make an argument for both Between the Eyes and Envenom, and I'm just gonna pick Envenom for now. So for me combat is looking good. It doesn't really have that many insane runes. It's not a mage healer, it's not like massively improved like Ret Paladins or anything like that, but combat rogues by themselves, they always have been and always will be really strong. So for me, I would actually put combat rogues all the way up in A tier. I just don't know where in A tier I would actually put them. It's gonna be like something like this, I think. Like right between Discipline Priest and Mage Healer. That's where I would put combat. You could make an argument for having them like way over at Marksmanship Hunters as well, but in A tier at least, like middle of the A tier, like quite high middle-ish A tier. Like all of the A tier classes or specs that I have so far, they're really close to each other. For the most part at least, they really are. Now, rogues also do have 2 more DPS specs that I'm just gonna be real and say that I haven't really seen that many people play. In Classic WoW, like you probably usually go for combat, even though this time around you can make an argument for assassination. There's a really good dagger available at level 24, and also getting more critical strike, right, 1% right here, Deadly Brew as well, and also Envenom. They really play well with assassination. That being said, most of your damage modifiers by poisons, like improved poisons, you will not have in phase 1. You will have it in phase 2, you just won't have it in phase 1. So for phase 1, it doesn't really matter too much if you're getting brand new poisons. They will give you overall damage increase, but your spec in that case doesn't matter. And even if you're playing combat, you probably would go for improved Sinister Strike, and then go Precision if you need hit, and then go into Malice for 1% crit, right? So even if you're playing combat, you're technically playing combat slash assassination. So assassination for me, I'm just going to put down here. It's like, why would you play? Even though, actually, never mind, because of the daggers. So, daggers, you could put that assassination up to here, but even if you have daggers, you could make more of an argument for being combat, or not combat, subtlety. So let's talk about subtlety really quick. Once again, you have the same runes kinda, but you have Slaughter from the Shadows, reducing the energy cost of your backstab and ambush abilities by 20%. This one right here, really good. For the hands, you have Mutilate, which you could have used for assassination, to make that even better, right? And for us, we have Shadow Strike, in this case for subtlety, teleports behind the target and strike, causing 150% weapon damage, but you have to be stealthed though to use it. So you're sacrificing ambush to use Shadow Strike instead. Now for legs, once again, you're stuck with Between the Eyes, Blade Dance, and Envenom, so we're just gonna keep Envenom for now. But yeah, 20 less energy for both backstab and ambush. Now top that off by using Opportunity, increases the damage dealt when striking from behind with backstab, garret, and ambush by 4% times 5, so 20%, right? Increase by having Malice, you can have 1%, so 5% more crit if you want to have this, and then you can go for whatever here, probably Lightning Reflexes or something, to get into improved backstab for 30% crit. So if you have improved backstab, that is 10%, times 3, so 30% crit. With this one, 35% crit and 20% damage modifiers to backstab, and then by having the chest rune you can now have 20 less energy for backstab as well. So subtlety rogues can be kinda good, weirdly enough, but are they going to be insane? I really don't think so. I'm gonna put sub rogues as high C tier to kind of be, it's like low key. This could be a good spec if done correctly, but how good it ends up being, we'll have to wait and see. And with that said, we only have one more thing to look at for today, and that is the Rogue Tank, which I think a lot of people will end up playing, and for this we have just a Flesh Wound. We also have for hands, we have Main Gouge, giving you more parry chance, and it's an instant strike that also gives you parry chance, and it's basically a modified version of Sinister Strike that once again gives you parry. For legs, we have Between the Eyes and Blade Dance. You really want to have Blade Dance in this case for even more parry. Now, just a Flesh Wound, it gives you a taunt, so the way I imagine rogues working is that you're taunting, you're parrying, you're basically parrying, dodging, and you also have more armor, of course, so you will survive quite a bit, but the main thing for rogues is going to be that parry. Now, the thing is, you can actually improve this even further. You can have this one for lightning reflexes to have 1% dodge times 5, so 5% dodge. You can even use endurance to reduce the cooldown of evasion, so it's looking like it's a bunch of parrying. Thankfully, we also have deflection, so you really want to be combat. If you're rogue tanking, you want to be combat, you want to have 5 points in lightning reflexes, 5 points into deflection, 1 point into riposte, and probably 2 points right here, and then you're good to go. That way you will always evade so many attacks. Like, once again, you have 5% parry from this, you have 10% parry from Main Gouge, you can have up to 10% parry from Blade Dance as well, and just Flesh Wound you take 20% less damage, and you have less chance to be critically hit. It's looking like a real fun spec, a real fun tank, but, and this is a big but, I think you will be basing a lot on parry, which is kind of RNG. Let's just say you have 30% chance to parry and 10% chance to dodge. You are avoiding a lot of hits, but what if the boss uses a massive hit on you and you don't dodge or don't parry? In that case, you're kinda screwed. So for me, rogue tanks, while they're looking really fun to play, I don't think they will be as good as shaman tanks and warlock tanks. Warlock tanks and shaman tanks, they're looking really good, and they're looking really consistently good. Rogues have more of a variable. They're more like, yeah, they can be really good in certain scenarios, and it's kind of RNG in other scenarios. So for me, rogue tanks, they're still gonna be good. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think I would not put them in A tier, so I'm gonna put them in B tier. And where in B tier? I think I'm gonna put them next to melee hunters, actually, so like here. And that's a tier list that I can say that I'm happy with. That is indeed a tier list that I can personally say that I'm happy with. So let me know if yours looks any different in the comments down below. I'm going to make this at the center of the screen as well so you can see it more clearly. There we go, Fury and Ret in the top. And if I had to make one modification towards the end right now, I would maybe do this, so Fire is at the top as well. That is like arguably the only change I would make at this point, I think. So Fury, Ret and Fire in S tier, and for A tier we have Destro, Marksmanship, Prot, Warlock Tank, Paladin, Holy, Arcane Mage, Discipline Priest, Combat Rogue, Healer Mage, Shaman Tank, and Beast Mastery. B, C, and D tier. There's only one D tier. Once again, I was talking about putting Assassination Rogues down there, but I don't think that was fair. I think by having... let me see. I think by having Mutilate, it just makes them way better. So actually I can make an argument for actually doing this, and this. And even this. Okay, now I'm happy. Now I think I'm happy. This is going to be my tier list for every single spec in Season of Discovery. I'm probably going to be incredibly wrong on absolutely everything. So once again, I'm really excited to see what I'm wrong about and what I'm correct about. If I'm correct though, then Fury Warriors are going to be topping DPS once again, which I could be absolutely wrong about, who knows. Either way, the season is coming out in 2 days, I just wanted to make this video. It's been 1 hour and 16 minutes, so if you enjoyed, then please leave a like down below. And once again, let me know what classes you would have in S tier, A tier, B, C, and D in the comments down below. I would love to hear your opinions on this, because I'm by no means a pro at Classic WoW with any means. I'm just leveling, making gold, and having fun. I don't even raid on a competitive level, so for me I'm just making this because I wanted to rank the classes based on my opinions so far, so yeah. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you want more Season of Discovery content, subscribe to the channel, it's free. trying to get more subs. Either way, thank you for watching today, boys, and I'll see you in Season of Discovery in 2 days. Peace out.